Okay, the next item of business is a statement by Marie Todd on the impact of UK Government decisions on Scotland's social care sector. The Minister will take questions at the end of their statement, therefore there should be no interventions or interruptions. I call Marie Todd. Minister, up to 10 minutes, please.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. As I start this statement, I'd first like to thank the dedicated and hard-working staff who work in social care. I'm incredibly grateful for the work that they do. My statement will focus on the far-reaching impacts of recent decisions by the UK Labour Government. But before this, I'd like to take a moment to reflect on how far we've come. Under this SNP government, we've seen the introduction of free personal nursing care for every person over the age of 65. We're making strides towards effective sectoral bargaining with our trade union partners. And rather than kicking the can down the road on social care reform, as we've seen from successive UK governments, we're bringing forward changes that will improve the lives of every person in receipt of care through our care reform bill. We've also continued to invest in social care, increasing spending on adult social care by 69% between 2011 and 2024. But this progress is under threat from decisions of a UK government intent on delivering blow after blow to social care. The latest of these falls from the devastating and needless proposal to end new visas for those working in social care. For workers, many vital social care services, and indeed for the people in receipt of care, there is no other way to describe this than catastrophic. Scottish Care have said the policy would not only be irresponsible, but it would also be reckless. It would put lives, services and whole communities at risk. Providers in both the independent and third sectors who are currently grappling with the last round of visa changes have now had the rug pulled from under them. A number of providers are reliant on international workers to fill critical vacancies. Already, Home Office statistics show that since the callous and cruel ban on dependents was brought in March 24, there have been 81% fewer applicants for health and care visas. And now, shockingly, Labour want to reduce that number even further. We are clear that migration is vital for supporting sustainable communities, our economy and public services in Scotland. Scotland needs talented and committed people from across the world to work here without excessive barriers. I would also echo the views of CCPS, and I would reject the notion that social care staff are lower-skilled workers. These are staff that provide critical and complex care to the most vulnerable people in our country, and for them to be labelled as lower skilled is demeaning and disrespectful. The Immigration White Paper presented a clear opportunity to redress the imbalances within the current system and through meaningful engagement create a system which is flexible, forward-thinking and well-placed to promote economic growth across the UK. We have consistently made the case for tailored migration routes within a single UK immigration system, and in March we provided a set of policy proposals to the Home Office to feed into the development of the White Paper. Shamefully, to date, there has been no substantive engagement from the Home Office on any of the policy proposals that we contributed. The complete failure of the UK Government to engage with the Scottish Government underlines the fact that once again Scotland is barely an afterthought to Labour. It is clearer now more than ever that Scotland needs full powers over immigration to properly support our public services. However, we know that this is not the only challenge facing the sector. Over recent years, the social care sector has been hit by a whole host of issues: Brexit, COVID, increasing demand, the cost of living crisis and workforce challenges. These have increased the risk to the continuity and quality of care and support for people across all communities in Scotland. Despite this, the UK Labour government took the decision in their autumn statement to increase employer national insurance contributions and to lower the threshold at which employers start to pay these contributions. This reckless decision has placed a heavy and entirely avoidable financial pressure on our social care sector. My officials have estimated that for adult social care alone, Labour's decision will cost more than £84 million. When you factor in the cost for directly employed, contracted and commissioned services across health and social care, this increases to over £300 million. At every opportunity, the Scottish Government has vehemently opposed this disastrous decision. We've made our view very clear to the UK Government, and we've called for additional support to fund these costs. This, sadly, has fallen on deaf ears. The Scottish Government has responded as best we can in an extremely difficult financial environment by increasing investment into both health and social care. This year's budget sees a record £21.7 billion going into health and social care, exceeding frontline Barnett consequentials. This investment will deliver reform and improvement across our services, driving efficiency and delivering the quality and access to services that people have a right to expect. We have provided almost £2.2 billion for social care and integration, almost £350 million more than our previous commitment to increase social care funding by 25% over this Parliament. We're uplifting pay to a minimum of £12.60 per hour for adult social care workers, reflecting the real living wage, providing an additional £125 million to make this happen. And we've invested an extra £5.9 million in the Care Inspectorate, an extra £13.4 million in our Independent Living Fund. I'm also pleased that the partners involved in the National Care Home contract were able to reach an agreement that delivers an additional 5.8% for nursing care and 6.8% for residential care, incorporating some of the increase in employer national insurance pay rises and inflation. However, despite substantial funding increases, we know that the national insurance increase remains of significant concern for the sector. While we'll continue to demand the UK Government change course on national insurance, it's becoming more and more apparent that Labour are perfectly content to balance the books on the backs of the most vulnerable. That's why we've wasted no time in working with local government and the sector to both understand the impact of these changes and explore what might be possible to help address these pressures. We provided targeted support through our collaborative response and assurance group, and the Cabinet Secretaries hosted monthly roundtable sessions with COSLA, with provider representatives and local leaders. And we've established a joint financial viability response group with COSLA to engage with key partners. This group's been meeting weekly since February and working at pace to identify the proactive steps that can be taken to mitigate the impact of increasing financial pressures, protect services and support people in receipt of care. That work is ongoing, but we remain committed to exploring options and solutions in a collaborative way. The new National Care Service Advisory Board will also work openly and collaboratively with integration joint boards, local authorities, health boards and organisations across community health, social work and social care in Scotland. It will have a vital role in strengthening transparency around spend and considering how effective spending on integrated health and social care has been. In closing, I would once again urge the UK Government to rethink, to fully fund the cost of the national insurance changes to social care and to work with us to deliver an immigration system that works for Scotland. To quote Scottish Care again, it's like the UK Government decided to make social care provision as hard as possible. National insurance is a nightmare. Immigration changes are awful. Disability changes will increase demand. These decisions cannot wait. In just the last month, we've been notified of 5 adult social care services that are closing, where the increases in national insurance were a major contributing factor. These closures alone will result in over 80 care home beds being lost. Quite simply, we cannot stand by and allow the social care sector to be sacrificed. We will always work collaboratively, constructively and proactively to support the social care sector in the face of substantial risk. And there is only so much that we can do. Without swift action from the UK Government, I fully anticipate that more care services will close and there will be areas of Scotland without access to social care. For some, this will mean difficulty in securing a care home placement or individuals being cared for many miles from their friends, family and community. That is not a future I want to see, and that is why I find it heartbreaking that the UK Labour Government are prepared to accept that.
Thank you. Just a reminder that we are tight for time across the afternoon. It's unfortunate that the statement has slightly overrun. I still intend to allow around 20 minutes for questions, after which we will need to move to the next item of business. I'd invite members who haven't pressed their request to speak buttons but want to ask a question to do so now, and I call for Sanders Golhani.
Declaration of interest as a practising NHS GP. Deputy Presiding Officer, yet another SNP statement passing the buck and never accepting any responsibility. Labour's national insurance hike has financially devastated charities like SAMH and Scottish Huntington's Association, who support the care sector, and directly plunged GPs, pharmacies and care homes into chaos. But the SNP have failed the care sector for almost 2 decades, with a lack of workforce planning, a lack of proper investment and a failure to end delayed discharge. In fact, over the past decade, we have less adult care homes, with 250 closing under this SNP government. They have also wasted £30 million, equivalent to 1,200 care workers, on its failed National Care Service, and have the brass neck to exalt their cobbled-together care reform bill. Social care staff are caring and compassionate. Scots are caring and compassionate. So why can't the SNP use some of the 125,000 unemployed Scots who are desperate for jobs to plug the gap instead of relying upon immigration?
Minister.
So, to respond to the last point that Dr Golhani makes, I think it's somewhat insulting to our social care staff, who are highly skilled and regulated and have qualifications, to suggest that people can come off the unemployment benefit and straight into a social care job. I think that underestimates, and I think that does you a disservice as a doctor within our health service to suggest that our social care workers...
Minister, could you please resume your seat a second? We are only going to get through the questions if the questioners ask the question and allow the Minister to respond. Minister.
So, yes, we are offering training for our social care service in some parts of our country, and I think that, if I could be fair, if I could make the comment, reveals a somewhat central belt focus. There are parts of our country, one of which I represent, which absolutely does not have enough people, where the reliance on immigration is over 80% of the workforce. I think to suggest that there are, in the villages and communities that I represent, young people fit, healthy and able to train in the skilled jobs that social care requires, I think is a very challenging point to make. In terms of our support for the social care, you'll be well aware that in Scotland, our offer to individuals individuals seeking social care is more generous than in the rest of the UK. We provide more financial support in terms of the personal care payment, in terms of the nursing care payment, and we also pay our social care staff more. In fact, in Scotland, unlike in England, social care staff are a regulated profession, so we have been for a great deal of time investing in social care. What I am saying to the Chamber today is that there have been a sequence of appalling blows. I said to the Chamber very clearly at the tail end of last year that the ENIX proposal was likely an existential challenge for the social care sector. Now we face this current blow on immigration.
Jackie Bailey.
Presiding Officer, what the Minister won't tell the Chamber is that Audit Scotland said there is a £560 million black hole in the finances for social care this year. That's down to the SNP. Nor will she tell the Chamber about the £30 million wasted on a National Care Service bill that had to be renamed because it didn't deliver a single hour of extra care. That's down to the SNP. And she will choose to ignore that Scottish Labour have been demanding an increase to £15 an hour for 4 years to stop care workers leaving the profession to work in Aldi or Lidl, who pay more. That's down to the SNP. Nor will she talk about the 119,000 Scots who are unemployed that could be trained to fill the estimated 9,000 vacancies across all social care settings. That's down to the SNP. Instead of addressing any of these issues and improving the terms and conditions of social care staff, the SNP simply blames someone else for their own failures. After 20 years, Scotland needs a change.
Minister.
So, the fact that Nigel Farage is praising Keir Starmer for copying his policies should shame the Labour Party, which is an increasingly unrecognisable party of austerity cuts, Brexit and hostile migration policies. The Labour Party's damaging migration plans will leave communities across Scotland worse off by making it more difficult to recruit vital care workers, by squeezing economic growth and by harming Scotland's valued international workforce. And I wonder if one of the few Labour Party members who are in the chamber today would like to tell me whether the £300 million going direct from health and social care in Scotland this year and every year going forward will support social care in our communities or worsen that £500 million gap.
Thank you. I would encourage members again to ask the questions and then listen to the responses rather than provide a running commentary. I call Jackie Dunbar to be followed by Brian Whittle.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. In 2023, more than 58,000 overseas care workers came to the UK on skilled worker visas, nearly half of all the new entrants to the social care workforce. Following the UK Government's announcement of its proposed immigration reforms, Unison's General Secretary has said the NHS and the care sector would have collapsed long ago without the thousands of workers who have come to the UK from overseas. Does the Minister share my concern that the UK Government's decision to restrict recruitment from abroad will leave many providers with staff shortages?
Minister.
I absolutely do share that concern. It is not a question of whether these changes will leave providers with staff shortages. It is inevitable. Scottish Care, CCPS, Care England, Renaissance Care, Unison, the Home Care Association are all on record in recent days telling the UK Government this. Providers have been absolutely clear that international recruitment is critical, and without it, the impacts will be felt by the most vulnerable. It is simply outrageous that the UK Labour Government doesn't recognise the immense contribution that care professionals from all over the world have played in caring for our communities over many years. These vital workers have cared for the most vulnerable in society in the hardest of times with the COVID pandemic, and rather than thanking them, Labour has chosen to devalue and disrespect them.
Brian Whittle to be followed by George Allen.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer. Now, we spoke to a group of CEOs providing social care, and they told us that they are needing to reduce their staff numbers just to keep their heads above water. And yet we have a minister coming into the chamber and complaining that recruitment is the biggest challenge in facing the sector, as the sector looks to shed jobs just to stay afloat. So can I ask the Minister if she could explain how she proposes to support care providers to retain existing staff in the face of the SNP cuts and Labour's NI increase?
Minister.
So let me be clear, the Scottish Government is increasing the funding to social care. We've increased record funding to both the NHS and to local authorities. That is how social care is funded in Scotland. On the issue of whether finance or people is the greatest challenge in our social care sector, I beg to differ. I would say that the answer varies in different parts of the country. And I think I would refer the Chamber to the SAMH briefing, which was provided to us, just to get a grasp of the scale of the challenge that is being faced by the social care sector. So the ENIX increase this year will cost SAMH £500,000. £500,000 that they have to find from a relatively fixed budget. They can't increase their charging to the public in the way that all other employers can do. And yes, I have been saying for months that the ENIX challenge, that tax on jobs, is going to lead to redundancies.
Thank you. I'm going to need briefer responses. George Adam to be followed by Carol Mochan.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. The Coalition of Care Providers Scotland has warned that the UK Government's national insurance hike is a massive threat and said, "We have absolutely no idea how we're going to cover that bill." Can the Minister update us on the Scottish Government's latest engagement with social care providers about the impact that this is going to have on services?
As I set out in my statement, the ENIX increase is disastrous for social care, with care providers warning that significant numbers of providers could close their doors as a result of these changes from Labour. It's been described as an existential threat for the sector. We have regular engagement with social care providers and stakeholders like CCPS and Scottish Care on this issue through our Financial Viability Response Group, and the Cabinet Secretary has hosted monthly roundtables with this group and COSLA. The group is continuing to work at pace with its next meeting scheduled for tomorrow. The message we hear loudly and consistently from providers and stakeholders is that the UK Labour Government must reconsider this harmful decision and fully fund the cost of the national insurance changes to social care, and I echo those calls today.
Carol Mochan to be followed by Rona McKim.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. It's pretty ironic to hear this Government praise its work on the botched National Care Service Bill, which is now unrecognisable to what was first envisioned, with 30 million wasted in the process. So despite the Scottish Government's warm words today, in reality the social care sector has been ignored, underfunded and let down for 18 years by this SNP Government. But I want to ask the Government today, the UK Government provided funding to the Scottish Government to assist with national insurance contributions. However, we believe the local government has not received all of its funding to date. So can I ask the Minister to tell the Chamber today whether all the monies provided by the UK Government have actually been allocated?
Minister.
As I understand it, that's absolutely the case, and I can confirm in writing afterwards if that would be of comfort to the member. On the £30 million that there is, I think that the members in the Chamber are just not... If Jackie Baillie could allow me to make this point, I think the members in the Chamber are just not understanding the scale of the threat that faces our social care sector. So Carol Mochan raises the issue of the £30 million. That was £30 million spent on improving social care in Scotland, £10 million per year over 3 years to understand the social care sector and to make improvements to it. The scale of the National Insurance Bill to the health and social care sector in Scotland this year and every year going forward is £300 million. £300 million, which is not going direct to our health and social care sector, £300 million, which is going to Treasury.
Thank you. Rona Mackay to be followed by Gillian Mackay.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. It sadly seems that once again Scotland's an afterthought to the UK Government. Can the Minister provide an update regarding any engagement between the UK Government and the Scottish Government ahead of these migration proposals being announced?
Minister.
So I actually question whether we're an afterthought at all. Renaissance Care have said that the UK Government are shooting themselves in both feet with this policy. More care homes will close, delays and waiting lists will increase. It will directly harm the lives of vulnerable adults across the UK. But for the already fragile systems in areas like the Highlands and Islands, like the area I represent, this is nothing short of calamitous. The UK Government cannot say that they were unaware of impacts. We issued a comprehensive, evidence-based proposal document to the Home Office during their development of the Immigration White Paper, outlining Scotland's needs. There was no substantive engagement on any of the policy proposals that we submitted, and very clearly the needs of Scotland's communities have been ignored. The brutal truth is that the UK Government know the damage that this policy will do, and they are doing it anyway.
Thank you. We've got 6 minutes. 5 colleagues who want to ask questions. We'll need to get through them a little quicker in terms of the responses. I call Gillian Mackay to be followed by Alex Cole-Hamilton.
Thanks, Deputy Presiding Officer. As well as preventing more migrant workers from coming here, the announcement this week will undoubtedly see those who are already here worried about the anti-migrant rhetoric that is rising across the UK. What work is the Government undertaking to prevent these staff from moving away from Scotland and support them at a time where the toxic narrative around migration appears to be growing?
Minister.
The member is absolutely correct to highlight the impact of the toxic narrative around migration on people who are already here and people, in fact, who have been here for generations. It is being felt very painfully. I had a meeting this morning with NHS chairs, and each and every one of them talked about the impact on the workforce. I worked in the NHS for 20 years, and I have to say I welcomed the support and skill and talent of the many people I worked with who came from other parts of the world. There is anti-racism work, which we were talking about this morning, which Health Board's NHS Grampian has a great piece of anti-racism work, and I'd be more than happy to meet with the member and talk more about what our health and social care system is doing to make sure that those staff know that they are welcome here and we value them.
Thank you. Alex Cole-Hamilton to be followed by Emma Harper.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. On a note of consensus, I absolutely agree that some of the best care in our country is provided by care workers who've chosen to settle here from overseas. I also agree with the Government that not excluding social care providers from the national insurance contribution is a hammer blow. But does the Minister recognise the actions taken by her own government, particularly in the failure to supply affordable housing to care workers, and indeed the gap in funding to social care, falls squarely at her feet and is seeing the closure of homes, particularly in the Highlands and communities like those she represents?
Minister.
So I absolutely recognise that the latest threats aren't the only challenges that the sector face, and I acknowledge that. The member is absolutely correct to point to the sustainability of housing in rural areas as also being an issue. And again, we are working in a collaborative way to ensure that our health and social care sector are working closely with our local authorities in order to rise to that challenge where it is occurring locally. In terms of the gap in funding, this government, and I am proud to be part of a government that has absolutely increased the funding to social care. We've increased the funding to our NHS, record funding to our NHS, record funding to local authorities. That means record funding to social care. In Scotland, we pay our staff more. We value our social care staff. Of course, I would like to go further, but the real living wage, a commitment that this government has had since 2016, is a substantial improvement on what they are paid in England.
Thank you. We've got 3 questions and 3 minutes. Emma Harper.
Thanks, Presiding Officer. The Minister and many colleagues have mentioned the UK Government's hike to employer national insurance contributions and that this hike could cost the social care sector in Scotland 84 million a year, and I think she even mentioned £300 million as well. It's a huge cost for the sector, including for Dumfries and Galloway. Can the Minister just reiterate how the Scottish Government is engaging with the UK Government regarding this issue and provide reassurances that the Scottish Government will continue to press the UK Government over the costs?
So in terms of the numbers, it's really important that people grasp the scale of this issue. So 300 million we estimate across health and social care, including GP contractors. 84 million direct cost for adult social care, potentially up to 100 million. 30 million we estimate for the not-for-profit sector in Scotland. It is unbelievable, and these costs are for each and every year, and now need to be met just to stay still. There are 100 better ways I could spend that money. At every opportunity, myself and my ministerial colleagues have stridently opposed this. We have tried to engage with the UK Government, but our budget and funding will be spent mitigating UK policies.
Thank you. I've got Annie Wells to be followed by Evelyn Tweed.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. Minister, there is almost 6,500 people across Scotland waiting for a social care assessment, a number that represents real lives and real families. Yes, the Scottish Government says it's investing money into the care service, but what does this actually mean for people waiting on these assessments, and when will people receive the care they desperately need? Minister.
As I understand it, the number of people waiting for a care assessment has gone down year on year, and I'm more than happy to provide, yes, if you pick a certain months, particularly where we have been challenged. What we tend to do when we're looking at statistics, if we really want to learn what's happening, is we look at the same point in each year and compare. So year on year, that number of people waiting for assessments are going down. That's of no comfort to the people who are waiting for assessments, and I'm determined to improve that performance.
And briefly, Evelyn Tweed.
The Labour Government's plans to limit the number of international social care workers is just the latest measure from successive UK governments which have damaged recruitment in this sector. Can the Minister set out what assessment the Scottish Government has made of the impact of Brexit on Scotland's social care workforce?
As briefly as possible, Minister.
So Brexit, as you know, had a devastating impact on the Highlands and on Scotland as a whole. Scottish employers were more reliant on EU workers than in many other parts of the UK, so ending the free movement as a result of Brexit that Scotland did not vote for had a hugely negative impact across our public services and the Scottish economy. That's one of the fundamental reasons why there are so many labour shortages right across every sector at the moment. Brexit left the social care sector with less flexibility to respond to ongoing labour supply challenges, and research by the Nuffield Trust highlights the negative impact on the UK health and social care sector more broadly.
Thank you, Minister. That concludes this item of business. There will be a brief pause before we move to the next item of business to allow front benches to change.